John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on October the 21st in the year of our Lord 2025. Got a lot of great information for you tonight. Let's jump over here to Murtech on Rumble. This is my Rumble channel. This is the video we're doing tonight, episode 1722. It says upcoming, but as you know, you're actually watching it on live stream. So let's go ahead and get into this. Hi, Debbie BS. Let me close out the live chat and slide down here. And all right, slide down here and check out what we have for you tonight. Open the description box by clicking the show more button. It'll expand it out. We have information from Benny Johnson, Dr. Steve Turley, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, and X22 report. Okay, but before we get into that, I do need to give a shout out here to Engineer Eric, just started following my channel. KC Sparky 2025 just started following my channel. AL Justice just started following my channel. Lal 4588 just started following my channel. Patriot Girl 53 just started following my channel. T Verberg just started following my channel. Kathy Scott just started following my channel. And Cruisers73 just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, moving along here, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1721. Debbie BS and Foxy Grandma commented on my episode 1721. Debbie BS commented on my extra 505A and extra 505B. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments and reposting my videos. Let me give this a thumbs up. Boom. There you have it. See how easy that was? And by the way, I have one of those thumbs up icons right here below the video. If you'd like to scroll down and click on that, that would be fantastic. Okay, let's see what we got going here with Benny Johnson. Dan Bongino finally snaps, goes scorched earth on Gavin Newsom in rare public rant. Total bull poopy. Let's check this out.
What's up, guys? Spenny. Democrats call themselves progressives, and that presumably means they want to provide progress for the places in which they control and rule, like San Francisco, who's under single-party Democrat rule for the better part of the last 50 years. This is what San Francisco looked like at the turn of the century. It was a stable and functional society, a beautiful and gifted city. It had renowned architecture, a thriving commercial district. San Francisco is very beautifully situated, a stable society, clean streets, all things considered, and a hustling and bustling group of entrepreneurs who wanted to live inside of a stable and clean society, functional and capable of providing the kind of structure that you would want inside of a city in order to live in. This was the San Francisco of 100 years ago. Ask yourself, has it improved today? This is the San Francisco of today. People with their pants around their ankles, tweaking on fentanyl in the middle of the streets. These same streets, the video I just showed you. These are the same streets. Open sores and wounds on them from all their drug use and injections. Bent over like zombies because they're on so many drugs. Just huddled around, waiting to commit crimes after they wake up out of their fentanyl-induced stupor. This is the San Francisco that has been brought to you by the Democrat Party. Red cities don't look like this. I live in a big city. It doesn't look like this. Look at this. Have they provided any progress? Does this look like progress to you? Or did progress look like 100 years ago in San Francisco? These are great questions. And questions that need to be answered by actual adults who wish to live inside of functional societies. You know, San Francisco is not a functional society. When you have to lock up your toothpaste and gum, it's not a functional society. When you have to lock up your chocolate bars, it's not a functional society. When there are poop maps that can be held up at debates, it's not a functional society. This is the poop map of San Francisco. This is every place where public defecation has been reported. Goodness, it's grotesque. Why would you ever eat in the city? It's sickening. Crime is still surging in San Francisco. CNN reporter that flew in to cover crime got her car broken into the second she arrived. We got broken into the second that we arrived to try and cover a story about In-N-Out Burger.
A beloved fast food franchise. They are wildly popular and expanding everywhere, except for in one location. Welcome to the only In-N-Out Burger that has ever closed. This is a historic location. You can see the iconic building, but there's a fence around it. The signs have been ripped down, and the windows are all boarded up. Why did this In-N-Out Burger close? Well, because people were getting robbed in the drive-thru lane. 1,000 different criminal incidents of people being robbed while trying to get a burger in the drive-thru lane here. In-N-Out? Yeah, In-N-Out got the out of here. The reason that California has descended into a third world criminal hellhole is because of Democrat soft-on-crime policies that defund the police and that view the criminals as the victim and not the tax-paying citizen. Speaking of being a victim, we were literally robbed while we were filming this video. Middle of the afternoon, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Happened to us. It's not just us. Happened to Senator Barbara Boxer, assaulted and robbed in Oakland. So yes, San Francisco sucks. Yes, San Francisco is bad. And Dan Bongino is out here today on Fox News saying, we just don't care. We're going to go in. We're not going to ask permission. We're going to go in. We're going to clean up places like San Francisco.
Governor of California. We answer to the president, the American people, the attorney general, the deputy attorney general. That's the chain of command. Listen, I'm not going to get into a match. I was going to say something different, but got to control my queen's mouth on the air with Gavin Newsom. But when he says this comment, what is that? Nobody wants you here. Yeah. Really? Ask the 67-year-old woman living in a drug-ridden area of L.A. or San Francisco or what else, who's had some guy slinging crack on the corner for 10 years now, harassing her grandkids. Go ask her if she wants us and the FBI, the U.S. Marshals and the DEA, and all the operations of the federal government in there to clean up the city. Go ask her. Go find her. I promise. There's not a limited sample size of people. That's kind of a BS remark. The people do want us there. I can tell you, I live in D.C. now. Obviously, the headquarters is right down the block from your D.C. studio here. I'm going there afterwards. I was out this weekend on the Washington Mall. Got to touch some grass, get some sun once in a while. It was Sunday. And I saw about 10 or 15 National Guard folks. I'm telling you, all right, granted, it's just my single subject designed for that day. I saw at least in that half hour I was there, 10, 15 people thank them for being there. So don't believe the hype. DC, that this is one of those cities where people are looking for safety too.
So Dan Bongino there saying he's not going to ask permission from Gavin Newsom. We don't answer to the governor of California. We answer to the president. Now, Gavin Newsom, who follows us and is triggered by us and our social media presence online, is constantly responding and being a little reply guy to us, saying Dan Bongino's rising crime. Newsom responds and says, San Francisco homicide rate is on track to be the lowest since 1950s. Well, it's because they killed everyone. It's like dark gallows humor, but what else could it be? Exactly. I just showed you the crimes that were committed to us and to Democrats the second they landed in San Francisco. Dan Bongino decided to clap back to the governor of California. You're welcome, governor. As you should know, the president instructed us as soon as we entered on duty to work with the state and local law enforcement to crush violent crime. And our early efforts in San Francisco were a big part of that. The result are evident in the data. We appreciate the work of our state and local partners as we continue these important efforts. You should be praising the efforts. I know the citizens are benefiting from safer streets. Matter of fact, this is now getting community noted. And Gavin Newsom is saying, fact check, Donald Trump wasn't even in office when crime started to hit record lows. Podcaster Dan has no idea what's going on, so he's using podcaster as a pejorative. Didn't Gavin Newsom start a podcast? Strange that. This is incorrect. Before Trump was in office, San Francisco's homicide rate was its lowest in 60 years. Again, if everyone, like, maybe you're not there, maybe there's not a lot of homicides, but you can't explain this. Like, is this what are you saying this is like success?
Yeah, is that
Is
okay?
this what you're saying success is? All of these drug addicts sitting there in the middle of the street. This is your version of success in San Francisco?
And I don't believe
there's
those
no
numbers.
homicides.
I don't believe
Everyone's
those
got a
numbers.
needle in their arm.
Yeah, I don't believe those numbers. I've heard reports, and I've shared it with you as well, about how the numbers have been skewed reporting those crimes. They just, don't report a lot of them. All right, let me click on this Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Benny Johnson. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Great information. He always puts out good stuff. Okay, let's jump back here and see what Dr. Steve Turley has to say about Trump DOJ. Let me go ahead and get the screen up so you can see it here. There we go. All right, Trump DOJ fires deep state prosecutor in massive purge. What a shame. Let's check this out and see what's going on.
Is happening inside President Trump's Justice Department, and the legacy media is doing everything they absolutely possibly can to hide what it all really means from you. There's nothing short of a massive purge underway right now as we speak inside the DOJ. And while CNN and MSNBC are spinning this as Trump's revenge tour, the truth is far more compelling and far more important for the full and decisive restoration of American justice. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you make sense of the madness as the far left desperately tries to stop the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age that you are making happen all over the world. So if you want a front row seat on how you're changing the world in ways you never even imagined, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Trump appointed U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, the former Miss Colorado finalist and Trump lawyer, is taking no prisoners. As we speak, she is systematically removing career prosecutors from the Eastern District of Virginia, one of the most powerful prosecutorial offices in America. Now, if you don't know, the Eastern District of Virginia has long been a fortress of the administrative state. So when Halligan arrived to lead the office, she encountered immediate resistance from entrenched prosecutors who opposed bringing charges against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Now, these weren't minor disagreements about prosecutorial strategy. These were fundamental refusals to investigate potential criminal conduct by politically connected officials. We've talked about this before, but one of the unwritten rules of being a member of the permanent political class in D.C., of being part of this bureaucratic elite, is that you're above the law. You make the rules for others, but those rules do not apply to you. It's one of the perks of being a part of the permanent political class. So when Halligan assumed the position of the new U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, she frankly shocked everyone involved when she announced that her office would indeed prosecute both Comey and Letitia James. And when some of the senior prosecutors rebelled, she sacked them. And we're talking some major players here. So, for example, senior prosecutor Maggie Cleary, who briefly led the entire office, she was among the first to go when Halligan presented the Comey indictment in court. Cleary, she reportedly staged a silent protest by sitting in the back row of the courtroom rather than at the government table. It was just, from what I understand, it was just a petulant display of insubordination that would have been unthinkable in any properly functioning organization. Well, now, of course, she's gone. She thought the rules didn't apply to her, and now she could think about that all she wants, standing in the unemployment line. But Cleary, as it turns out, was just the beginning. The purge accelerated when Halligan discovered something even more troubling and something even more nefarious: systematic leaking to the press. Now, two veteran federal prosecutors, a woman by the name of Beth Jussie and Kristen Bird, were terminated after resisting the Letitia James indictment. Now, according to sources, they were escorted from the building. They were stripped of their security clearances, not merely for opposing the case, but for they were found to have leaked sensitive information, of course, to MSNBC, as well as to a reporter, a fellow by the name of Ken Delanian. He's a reporter previously connected, if you could believe it, to Fusion GPS. Does that sound familiar? Fusion GPS is the opposition research firm behind the discredited Steele dossier. Remember, it was the Steele dossier, named after the former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele, who helped fabricate it. That dossier was deliberately used by Comey to get FISA warrants, I believe on 4 separate occasions, for the FBI to spy on Trump while he was both a candidate and after he assumed presidential office, even though Comey knew it was a crock of crap. He knew it. He knew it was a completely fabricated dossier with a bunch of lies about Trump, and that none of them has ever even come close to being corroborated. He didn't care. It was there to help launch a Russian collusion investigation that would itself cover up Comey's corrupt handling of Hillary Clinton's classified documents scandal. So in classic projection fashion, the deep state fabricated a scandal to cover up a real one that they were involved in. So closing the loop here, there were attorneys in that Virginia office who were leaking information to far-left outlets like MSNBC, as well as this reporter who has connections to the very opposition research firm associated with that Steele dossier and the whole Russian collusion hoax. And so this reveals, I would argue, the real scandal here. The real scandal is a network of government lawyers using their positions of power to funnel information to friendly media outlets for the purpose of shaping public narratives, which are deliberately framed to undermine legitimate investigations. You have to let that hit you. Let me say that a little bit more simply. This is because I think it just underscores how swampy DC really is.
Yes.
The very legal divisions entrusted with enforcing the law are the very ones doing everything they can to undermine the law by feeding out all of these leaks that create narratives that obstruct the law, all in the name of protecting themselves and their fellow career bureaucrats who believe they're above the law. If ever there were an accurate descriptor of the swamp, there it is. The very government departments tasked with protecting the law were undermining the law so as to protect those they believed to be above the law. But that's only half of it. If you can believe it, it gets even worse. You want an inside look?
He's doing a commercial. Excuse me. So let me get past that.
Election. Yet, it's just beyond importing aid and war. All the while, anarcho-tyranny. It involves Turley walks. It's free, it's simple, and I'll see you there. Remember, liberals today are dedicated to something called anarcho-tyranny. It involves the selective application of the law against political enemies. So both permanent bureaucrats as well as those, who check off the boxes that make up left-wing identity politics, they can basically get away with anything. They can get away with murder. Literally. All the while, Republicans and those associated with MAGA are subjects of unprecedented legal warfare. That's anarcho-tyranny. And so it's hardly surprising that these same prosecutors who just got fired because they refused to aid in the indictment of Comey and Tish James, it won't surprise you that they reportedly had no problem whatsoever participating in and supporting the lawfare against Donald Trump. 4 criminal indictments, numerous civil cases, attempts to remove him from state ballots, and carefully timed document releases designed deliberately to influence the presidential election. For example,
Absolutely.
Judge Tanya Chutkan specifically authorized Jack Smith to release extensive reports before the 2024 election. Yet these prosecutors now claim investigating state officials within 60 days of an off-year election crosses some sacred ethical line. I mean, it's just beyond pathetic, and nobody's buying it anymore, obviously. So, circling back to these leaks, Halligan's response was unequivocal. She issued a public statement declaring that those days are over, that the Eastern District of Virginia enforces a strict zero-tolerance policy on the unauthorized disclosure of information concerning ongoing investigations or cases. And she added that such leaks will be investigated to the maximum extent permitted by law. In other words, the days of legal officials leaking information to promote narratives that deliberately thwart and undermine the law, that undermine due process in order to protect career bureaucrats are over. Again, the last people on the planet who should be leaking anything are those supposedly concerned with the rule of law. And if you can believe it, the firings continued. It went beyond those 2 leakers, Jussie and Byrd. A number of career prosecutors were also terminated after the Comey proceedings. In total, approximately 6 to 8 prosecutors have been removed as Halligan continues to reshape an office that's become functionally resistant to accountability for politically connected officials. Now, the active, radically partisan resistance that was just uncovered within the Eastern District prosecutorial office raises some pretty profound questions about federal governance. Should unelected career officials be able to nullify the prosecutorial priorities of elected leadership? So if a duly elected president wants his Justice Department to go after career bureaucrats, do unelected career officials have a right to deliberately obstruct that? Should government lawyers with security clearances be permitted to leak information to journalists in an effort to deliberately shape the outcome of legal cases? And should prosecutors who refuse to investigate certain officials based on their political affiliation and connections, should they remain in positions of public trust?
No.
All of these questions are coming to the fore with all of this, and the answer to all of them, as far as the Trump administration is concerned, is an unequivocal no. Hell no. Yet again, if we take a step back, this is precisely the system that developed over decades of institutional drift, where powerful bureaucrats operated as a parallel government insulated from democratic accountability. That's the government that the legacy media is doing everything they can to defend
and protect.
Halligan's house cleaning exposes the uncomfortable reality that much of what we call the rule of law and democracy has actually been the selective application of law based on political considerations and the democratic deliberation of an elite few, not the people. When prosecutors refuse to investigate officials like Comey or James, while enthusiastically pursuing cases against Trump and his associates, They're not defending legal principles. Obviously not. They're enforcing a political hierarchy, anarcho-tyranny. So needless to say, the purge in the Eastern District of Virginia represents far more than personnel changes.
Right.
It's a fundamental challenge to the administrative state's claim that career government officials should operate independently of elected leadership. It's a claim that sounds pious and principled until you recognize it's just a justification for unaccountable power. The only ones that these bureaucrats are ultimately operating independent of is we, the people. And so as much as the far left illiterates over at the legacy media outlets like MSNBC want us to believe that this really is all about Trump's revenge, the real story is far deeper. It's the exposure of just how thoroughly corrupted our justice institutions have become, how aggressively that corruption will fight to preserve itself, and how MAGA is finally and decisively draining the swamp.
Absolutely. Great information, folks. I'll tell you what, Dr. Steve does an excellent job. And he's right. You know, I've been around a few years, and the crimes that have taken place,
the law,
and nothing has been done about it, it's unbelievable how they protect themselves. Oh, there's no two tiers of justice. Yeah, right. Okay, clicking on the Rumble link, it does take us over here to Dr. Steve Turley. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, jumping back here. I haven't shared Jovan Hutton Pulitzer in a long time, but I'm going to do this. And also, if you watch my daily news wrap-up, then I've been having all kinds of problems. I think it's with YouTube when I'm trying to do my daily news wrap-ups. Used to, I could get my playlist going, and it just runs and runs and runs and runs and runs. But for some reason, it'll play, I don't know, maybe 10 videos and then just lock up. And I'll have to actually, behind the scenes, open up a new tab, go to YouTube, and restart where I left off and start it over. And it'll play, I don't know, 10 or 12 videos and then just freeze up. But I'm going to do Jovan Hutton Pulitzer here on my daily news update. And also I'm going to feature him on my daily news wrap-up and share the information from Rumble channel instead of YouTube. So I guess YouTube maybe doesn't like it that I'm sharing that information. I don't know. But at any rate, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, will the deep state allow Adam Schiff to be prosecuted? You decide. Well, I don't know. After what Dr. Steve said, it's a good possibility. So let's check this out and see what he has to say. There's old Adam right there with the long nose.
Okay, folks, welcome to the crap. In fact, this program, we're not going to talk about crap. We're going to get a little more graphic. We're going to talk about the shite. Is Adam Shifty Schiff in some deep shite? Well, it seems that an intelligence staffer has spilled the beans to the FBI. You may have heard a little bit of rumor about this. I'm sure there's a lot of backroom negotiations. I want to remind you of a few things that I educated you on years ago. And yes, we're going to find out if Schiff's about to hit the fan. Literally. Okay, do you remember back during the Russia collusion hoax? Schiff would be standing right outside of these big double wooden doors. And he basically stood there, Trump's bad, Trump's this, Trump that, Russia. We have the evidence. We have it all, blah, blah, blah. I told you the wordsmithing perimeter legalities of that. See, when Shifty Schiff was outside that particular set of doors, he could, by law, lie, and it was not a crime. Inside those chamber doors, everything had to be truthful, or there is a, criminal offense, criminal penalties. And these guys know it. And that's kind of why they keep reporter outside the doors. And you had Schiff saying, and we saw it all. We did this. We heard this. It's because they can do it. Well, right now there has been a issue. Okay. And Schiff might be in some deep shite. And so, for me, for somebody to say, well, I hate to tell you this, but the FBI is bad. Well, Captain Obvious, you probably need to go back to the Travel Channel commercials because we know that. Every one of us know it. Think about it. We don't trust our healthcare system. We don't trust our lawmakers. We don't trust our policing or security or intelligence agencies. Duh. Newsflash. Been there, done that. We know it. We've been talking about it for a long time. And so what we're trying to do is knowledge and transparency is the disinfectant. If you think the government's going to change anything, you're wrong. You're wrong. And so for those of you that have been with me here for years, you know this. And what I do is try to give you the inside information, explain how it works. I can't personally tutelage everybody, but it's probably why most people should have been watching me for years and why they try to push you away from not getting the scoop from me. So shifty eyes, so many jokes in this, man. Pencil neck and pencil prick. An intelligence staffer has been interviewed by the FBI. So I'm going to give you some broad scopes, almost said scrotum, but hey, it applies, right? What happened is an HPSCI staffer, HPSCI staffer, right, has come forward and said, Schiff is shifty. Well, we kind of know that, right? We kind of know that. Now, what's interesting is this is a Democrat whistleblower. It is a Democrat whistleblower. Okay. Now, what has happened here for Shifty Schiff is in intra-agency. See, the House Intelligence Committee, and I always think, how nuts, right? How nuts is it that this guy was over the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence? The only one that would have been worse would Maxine Waters. This is where you realize that most of these, and I've come to realize it, most of quote unquote our lawmakers are inserted, they're selected, and they're freaking puppets for money, sex, favors, etc. That's it. He was seeded, planted, and grown there. Is he a fall guy? No. Maybe a fraud guy, but not a fall guy. Clearly in on it. Mm-hmm. But I'm beginning to think that, man, so many of our elected officials, the groomers who groom the kids, groom politicians, groom them to be into office to play roles. It's freaking kabuki theater, right? It is worse than any kabuki porn you could ever watch. It is just bukkake BS, right? And these guys get placed in. Well, this fellow, believe it or not, used to be over the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. It's why I even hate the term election integrity, because there is no integrity in elections, right? At all. And in our House Intelligence, there is no intelligence, and it's not permanent. It's very flexible depending upon who put you in. Well, the document in question is this document. Now, let me tell you what the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence is over. You ready for this? Now, I want you to think about Schiff when you think this. Here's the pencil neck point of the pyramid, which means he was over the CIA, the National Security Agency, the FBI's intelligence branch, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and the intelligence arms of the Departments of State, Treasury, Homeland Security, and Defense.
Holy moly.
This guy.
Holy moly. Unbelievable.
It's kind of like Swallow's Well with his little Chinese intelligence asset. That's what this guy was responsible for. Now, the general gist of the, or jizz, it applies to, of the information is, right? An inside Democrat whistleblower who is a former intelligence staffer during the time says that Schiff authorized and directed two things, and directed the leak of the classified information in 2017 that brought about the investigation of Trump, Russia. Sorry, Russia. I forgot to. That he authorized the leak. So I'm going to kind of peel this back so you understand the agency. What does it mean to be a staffer, etc. Okay? And over on my locals, I have given you the actual document. It's called an FD302. It's about 16 pages long. A lot of interesting information in it. You can download it and read for yourself. Okay? Right? And yes, we don't put links in chat because we can't vet them in advance. And we don't want people getting confused on links and clicking to find out that there's MRA in your food. And we'll tell you how to find it if you pay us $99. Yeah, we don't do chats. Okay. And so when you think about this guy, and he has purview in that position, okay? Purview in that position. It's kind of glaring, isn't it? It's just kind of glaring that this guy would be in a position, right, that high up.
Right.
And yes, by the way, you're probably reading in the headlines today, major crash of AWS, Amazon Web Services, stuff all across the Eastern Seaboard. A lot of big things went down. This was probably the equivalent to a government hack in a big way. This is not a small deal. I'm not really talking about it a lot because I don't have details, but I'm telling you, with this happening, everybody should be alarmed. Everybody should be alarmed. Anyway, Schiff is the head of this, or was the head of this House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Now, it was created in 1977. Why was it created in 1977? To make sure nothing like Watergate ever happened again. Watergate is no big damn deal.
No, it was not.
To what's going on now.
Been there.
A lot of times when I was in DC, etc., in New York, I would often catch the DC to New York early morning shuttle. My seatmate to the other side, got to know each other and chat a bit, was G. Gordon Liddy, Mr. Watergate himself. It was very interesting to learn and find out information, right, about that time in history. But it was created to basically make sure never a Watergate happened again. So think of the moronic. You got to remember, this is oxymoron, meaning Schiff, moronic. Did that stop anything here? Of course not. And I think the Russia was far worse than Watergate, don't you? Watergate is nothing compared to this. Anyway,
absolutely.
Now, here's why this is a big deal. The House Permanent Select Committee has tremendous jurisdiction. And so their exclusive jurisdiction is they run all the black budgets, which currently in the Biden administration, they were having a problem getting into the black budget. Yeah, everybody says that money's in the black budget. And everybody said, oh, we don't say that anymore. That's so disrespectful. But because nobody could bring themselves to say black budget, they couldn't find the money. Also, they have oversight of all intelligence collection, analysis, counterintelligence, and covert actions. This guy. Man, this is, again, that's why I say it's oxymoronic. Yes. This guy being over that. They have investigations of intelligence failures, foreign interference, and leaks. They review classified reports and briefing from intelligence agencies. And they determine who in Congress gets to see access to materials. In short, Congress's top secret oversight body for the intelligence community. And it's this guy who is in charge of it.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here now. I'm 29 minutes into this 1 hour and 51 minute video. I'm not going to play it all for you. In fact, I actually turned this playback speed up to 1.25 because Jovan talks a little slow and he's a little windy, but he has fantastic information. The only reason that I haven't shared more of him is because of his presentation. It's kind of slow. I've got an hour podcast here, so I try to get in as much information as I can. I urge you. I will include this in my daily news wrap up tonight, so you can see the whole thing if you want to. But I encourage you to either watch that or scroll down into the description box and click the link and watch this video from Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. Fantastic information. He always puts out good stuff. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you.
Meaning Schiff.
Show you that this video does come from Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. This is his channel. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let me jump back here now and give you some more information from X22 report on his episode 3756A. Lagarde panics. Will gold overtake the Federal Reserve note once it hits $5,790? I don't know. I found that to be interesting because I've heard reports we have, I don't know, like 800,000 ounces of gold. And for gold to be equal to our national debt, and this was a few years ago before it was up to $37,000, gold would have to sell for $86,000 an ounce for the amount of gold that we have to be equivalent to our actual national debt. So I don't know what they're borrowing the money on, what they're using for collateral, unless maybe it's you and me, our bodies. But this is going to be interesting. I've listened to a little bit of it, and it sounded interesting. So I wanted to include this in tonight's podcast. So let's get into this because I'm anxious to hear what he has to say as well.
Economic collapse, financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see that they are now panicking. When you look at the central banks, not just here in this country, but around the world, yes, they're all interconnected, but you can see they're panicking right now because they understand what Trump is doing right now. He's building a system that's going to compete with theirs. They don't want anyone building a system that competes with the central bank system. They want to be the only source of currency. And you can see that Trump now, he is changing things up. And soon we'll be weaning ourselves off of the central bank. And I do believe gold is going to continue to rise, and soon it's going to overtake the Federal Reserve note. And once again, the pieces of paper that we're using in this country, it is borrowed from a private corporation. That's why they have Federal Reserve note on top. And it is not the people's money. It's a private corporation's money, and they're loaning it to us. And there's interest attached on that currency, and we have to pay that interest. And this is why we're taxed in this country. So you could see that Trump now, he is moving us away from all of this. And the EU central banker, Christine Lagarde, who used to be the head of the IMF, she's saying now trillions are at stake. And she says, I see signs that the attraction of the dollar is slightly eroded, and future will tell whether there is more erosion of that. But when you look at the rise of cryptos, number one, when you look at the price of gold, gold is typically, in any situation, the ultimate destination for safe haven. Price of gold has increased by more than 50% since the beginning of this year. So Margaret Brennan asked her, are you worried about any of this? And she said, that's a clear sign that the trust in the reserve currency that the dollar has been, is, and will continue to be, is eroding a bit. In addition to that, we've seen capital flows outside of the U.S. towards other destinations, including Europe. So, for a currency to be really trusted, you need a few things. You need geopolitical credibility, you need the rule of law, and strong institutions. And you need, I would call it, a military force that is strong enough. I think on at least one and possibly two accounts, the U.S. is still a very dominant position, but it needs to be very careful because those positions erode over the course of time. So basically, Do you really need a strong military? No. If you're going to protect the central bank's currency, yes, you need a strong military. But again, do you have to protect gold? Because gold will always hold its value. The only reason you need protection for the fiat currency is because there is no value. Over time, it erodes. That's what inflation is. So you have to keep people thinking that this is the currency that we need. But once again, you have to understand the central bank, their plan was always to get rid of the Federal Reserve note here in this country and shift everything else someplace else. That's what their entire plan is. That's what the Great Reset is. And you can see that Trump now is making this a problem because now he has a parallel economic system. He's bringing in currency from other countries, and soon he'll be weaning us off of the Federal Reserve system, which means that every single other country is going to follow suit. This is their real panic. And you could see that every step of the way, what is Trump doing? He's building the foundation of this new economic system, which I call the parallel economic system right now because it's parallel to the central bank system. If you go back a little bit in time, the central bankers created a parallel system right before we came off the gold standard. They created the petrodollar system. Oh, that's right. They needed the military in the Middle East to protect those countries that were selling the oil, and countries could only use the Federal Reserve note to pay for that oil. So yes, you need the military to seem like it's strong, and you need to make sure that everyone is following what you want them to do. Because if they didn't, let's say those Middle Eastern countries decide, you know what, we're going to use gold, we're going to use our own currency, we're not going to use the US dollar. Well, then the central bank system would go down the tubes. This is why, going back a little bit in time, General Wesley Clark said, we're going to be going into many different Middle Eastern countries. Why? Because they needed to stop what was happening. You had Gaddafi, who was selling the oil using gold or personal currency. The same thing with Libya, the same thing with Iraq, the same thing with all of those countries. So yes, the military must protect the central bank fiat currency. Do you need protection if you're using gold? I don't believe so. But you can see every step of the way, you could see that, or if you use Bitcoin and gold together, no, you really don't. But you can see every step of the way, Trump now is putting the pieces together, building a very, very strong foundation. And once the foundation is completed, you're going to see the economy that's going to be built on top of that. And it's going to accelerate very, very quickly. Let's talk about our health. A meta-analysis of 23...
Okay, let's get past this commercial here. Get back to the news.
Argentina and beef. And this is what Trump has said. OSINT defender put this out and said, following reports that Trump administration was planning to purchase large amounts of beef from Argentina, in addition to the recent $40 billion bailout promised last week by President Trump to Argentine President Javier Milei, a reporter aboard Air Force One asked President Trump last night what he would say to American farmers who feel the deal is benefiting Argentina more than them, with Trump responding, look, Argentina is fighting for its life, young lady. You don't know anything about it. They're fighting for their life. Nothing's benefiting Argentina. They're fighting for their life. You understand what that means? They have no money, and they have no anything. They're fighting so hard to survive. If I can help them survive in a free world, I happen to like the president of Argentina. I think he's trying to do the best he can. But don't make it sound like they are doing great. They are dying. And this is what Trump is going to do with Argentina. It's actually going to benefit the United States. Remember, the cattle herd has been declining for a very long time. So basically, Milei's pro-U.S. pivot under Trump's leadership counters Beijing's grip, securing long-term agricultural markets. Yes, soybean growers face short-term competition, but Trump's America First policy ensures Argentina's survival as a free market counterweight to socialist regimes benefits U.S. interests. Farmers' frustration is valid, but global strategy demands tough choices. Weakness invites Chinese dominance. And this is absolutely true. Plus, this is going to give the farmers a chance to create a bigger herd, and eventually Argentina will then be on its feet. China will be put in its place, and we're going to see more beef production here in this country. Because if you really think about it, the deep state, the central bankers, what have they been trying to do? They've been trying to move the food sources out of this country, especially with our cattle herders, the farmers here in the United States. They were trying to push this out of this country. And since they've been doing this, yes, our farmers, our ranchers, and everyone else, they've been hurting. But I do believe in the end, we're going to see that this is going to benefit both countries. Now, Trump has done something else to counter China's stance on rare earth minerals. He has now made a deal with Australia on critical rare earth minerals. And this is what Trump says. In about a year from now, we'll have so much critical mineral and rare earths that you won't know what to do with them. They'll be worth about $2. So basically, he's now countering everything that China has been set up to do. Remember, the central bankers, the deep state players, they set China up to be the global leader in pretty much everything, the financial institutions, rare earth minerals, the creation of solar panels, windmills, electric cars, you name it. Trump now is taking all of this away from them. And this is all being done on purpose. He's weakening China. You see, he's looking for leverage, and also it's a national security threat, and he's looking to make America strong. And this way, the manufacturers in this country, they will have the resources that they need to create the products that we need for this country instead of outsourcing it to other countries and importing it back into this country, which is absolutely ridiculous. Everything could be created right here. So I do believe with all this happening right now, Trump, he already knows Australia already has the rare earth minerals. Same thing with Ukraine. And yes, the mines are being set up in this country, but it takes a little while. It's better to import in many different locations and decentralize where you're getting all this material instead of just being dependent on China. And this is going to hurt China quite a bit. And like you said, the rare earth minerals be worth like $2. So again, Trump now is making sure that he has the leverage. And especially when China starts to see all of this, when Trump makes the final trade deal with China, China will have no leverage whatsoever. They won't be able to threaten us with anything. Trump will have all the leverage. And that's what he's doing right now. Remember, the globalists, the central bankers, they set this up as a one-way street. We're all dependent on everyone else. And now Trump is reversing all of this and evening out the trade. And you could see that Christine Lagarde, she's very, very panicked over this. The central bankers on top of all these people, they're very, very panicked. Remember, they built a system. They've been in control for a very long time. And their system is very, very deep and wide. And every step of the way, what Trump is doing, he's chipping away at their system that they've created. And he's preparing and getting the United States ready to detach from the system that they created. And
now, you got to remember, folks, and he might talk about this as well, but the Federal Reserve was created back in 1913. I mean, they've had over a century to build on this, and create the deep state that runs deep and wide. And as I've said before, when you disturb the swamp, you're going to disturb a lot of snakes, alligators, and blood-sucking leeches when you do that. And that's what Donald Trump is doing, and that's why you're hearing all the hype and moaning and groaning on the mainstream media in deep state.
once the United States
Uh-oh.
on everyone else. And now Trump is reversing all of this and evening out the trade. And you could see that Christine Lagarde, she's very, very panicked over this. The central bankers on top of all these people, they're very, very panicked. Remember, they built a system. They've been in control for a very long time. And their system is very, very deep and wide. And every step of the way, what Trump is doing, he's chipping away at their system that they've created. And he's preparing and getting the United States ready to detach from the system that they created. And once the United States detaches from the system that they created, the rest of the world is going to follow suit, just like they've always done in the past. Remember, almost every single other country looks at the United States and says, okay, what is the free country doing? What are they doing? Because remember, these other countries, they might seem like they're free, but they don't have a constitution like the United States. So they're going to be looking at the United States. They're going to be looking at the economic system of the United States, and they're going to watch the United States separate themselves from the private Western central bank system. And you can see every step of the way, Trump, he is lowering fuel prices every step of the way. Eric Doherty put this out and said, the experts are silent after gas just dropped to or below $2 a gallon in multiple areas, averaging $2.99 countrywide. When President Trump predicted just days ago we could be hitting close to $2 a gallon. And eggs, well, minus 82% since Trump took office. Wow. So once again, you could see that Trump has set it all up. We're going to witness an energy revolution. And the reason why he's bringing energy costs way down is because this is going to assist manufacturing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's absolutely correct. I mean, manufacturing and transportation and everything. I mean, when you got diesel trucks paying $5 a gallon for diesel fuel, and they get about 6 miles to the gallon, amazingly how your transportation costs skyrocket. If you can bring that down, I mean, gas here in Indianapolis was like $2.74 a gallon this past week. So, you know, the lower the prices are on gasoline, the lower it'll be to transport things. And as he said, manufacturing is going to benefit from that, and the consumer is going to benefit from that, the retail buyer. And it will probably possibly lower the heating and cooling cost of your home. But great information here from X22. I'm 13 minutes into this 22-minute video. I invite you to scroll down in the description box and click that link if you want to watch more of this. Over here, clicking the Rumble link, you can see this does come from X22 Report. This is the video I shared with you. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Before we move on here, I want to share a little bit of information from Rumble Premium Perplexity. Some interesting stuff here. Let's take a listen to see what it's all about.
Looking for smarter ways to browse and enjoy your favorite content without ads? Get the Perplexity Pro bundle with Rumble Premium for just $19.99 a month when you sign up before December 31st, normally at $29.99 value.
With Rumble Premium, you'll get an ad-free viewing experience across all your devices and access to exclusive premium content, no interruptions, just the videos and streams you love, anytime, anywhere. Plus, Perplexity Pro boosts your productivity with unlimited research, unlimited uploads, exclusive member perks, and access to the latest and most advanced AI models for faster, smarter answers every day.
Save over 30% on this powerful bundle. Head to rumble.com/premium before December 31st to sign up and unlock your premium experience.
All right. Good stuff, folks. And let me remind you here, these are the videos here that I shared with you in my description box. The links to these videos are right here. Also, the links to the producer's channel. So if you want to see more information, for example, from Dr. Steve Turley, Dr. Steve Turley is the producer of this video. The link to this channel is, you click on that, and like magic, it takes you to Dr. Steve Turley's channel. It's amazing. But, you know, I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out. I do this. I put these packages together every night of different information from different producers, a variety of news and information to give you what's going on behind your back that the mainstream media and lying legacy media are not telling you. So that's why I put this together. And these videos that I shared with you are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com. Right down here is the video from X22 Report that I shared with you. Here's the video from Jovan Hutton Pulitzer that I shared with you. Here's the video from Dr. Steve Turley that I shared with you. And here's the video from Benny Johnson that I shared with you. I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos here at Murtech.com, and the link to Murtech.com is in the description box as well. I don't have time to share all of them with you in this hour podcast, and that is why I have my daily news wrap-up starting about 9:30. So let me go ahead and get that set up and take a break, grab a cup of coffee and a donut or a sandwich and a soft drink and a beer, and come back here and join me, and we'll get going with that. My daily news wrap up, all kinds of great information that I'm going to share with you, featuring Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. So right now, I do want to thank you for your time. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.